Well, good morning and welcome to today's webinar. This is Updating Your Website in Under an Hour a Week with Church360 Unite. This will be an overview webinar of the Church360 Unite software, but the whole topic today will be this theme of how to update your website in as little time as possible. I put an hour a week because this presentation is only going to be an hour, so if I can't show it all in this time, I can't expect you to get it done in under an hour a week. So we've got a number of great things to present to you today. My name is Peter Frank. I'm the Senior Manager of Concordia Technology Solutions. I've been with our CTS group for about 6 years. It'll be 6 years this summer. I've been with our organization, Concordia Publishing House, for 11 years this summer. So I've had a lot of experience working with churches and church workers. Before that, I was in the pre-seminary program at Concordia University, Wisconsin. And before that, I was, and still today, a different church, but an active lay member. And I've helped several churches build their church websites and go through that whole process. The first church website that I helped build was my home congregation in the Chicago area, and that was when I was about 15 years old, 16 years old, right at the beginning of the 2000s, back when web designs were rather, or websites were rather new for churches, and not every church had one, but it was this new technology that was important for churches to become involved with. So it's been a passion of mine to help churches with their websites for several years now, going on 20 years just about. All right, my contact information is on the screen. Email is the best way to reach me, but you can also call my office phone. That'll come right over here. And right now I've got it forwarded into voicemail, so don't try to call me during this presentation, but you can reach me either of those ways. A few housekeeping items before we begin. My plan is to go about 55 minutes for the presentation. I usually say 50 minutes and I always go over, so I'm bumping it up to 55 today, leaving 5 minutes at the very end for question and answers. But please don't wait until that time to ask questions. Ask questions throughout the presentation. It'll put it in the queue over here to let me know that you've got something you want to ask. And as a way of practicing, just to make sure that everybody has an idea of where that goes, because sometimes I hear after the fact, well, I had this question, but I wasn't sure where to put it. If you look on your GoToWebinar panel, there should be a place to ask questions. And so what I would say is, let me know that you are here today. Tell me where you're from. And as just a fun little aside, let me know what you're drinking today. I'm drinking coffee. I'm almost done with my 24 ounces, so that's how I have energy this morning. Otherwise, it would be a not very good webinar. So hopefully this will be good. My coffee is working. But just go ahead and put that in the chat. Let me know that you're here and that you know how to ask the questions. That'll give you a little practice. So we are recording this webinar. It'll be shared later on today. We'll also put this in our resource center so that you can watch it again if there's a part that you really want to dig into more, or if you want to share it with somebody else at your congregation. I would appreciate it. All right, so we've got a few people join us. Tammy from Overland Park, she's drinking peach tea. Brent from Canton, he forgot his drink. I'm sorry, Brent. Hopefully this presentation will be engaging enough that it'll keep you awake this morning. Jim from Trinity in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, if I put that right. Mark is drinking water today. Bill's from Westford, Massachusetts. Thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate it. It's always great to have a good crowd, and we've got more coming through. All right, so CTS, Concordia Technology Solutions, is the church administration division of Concordia Publishing House. And we've been producing software for churches since 1984. Back then, we went under the name of the products. Now we're under this broad umbrella of Concordia Technology Solutions because we've got several different options between Church360 and Shepherd Staff and Member Caller and our e-giving and Lutheran Service Builder. So we put it all under that one umbrella of having Concordia Technology Solutions. So a little bit about Church360 Unite, if you're not familiar with it. I'm going to ask that in a moment as well. But it is part of the Church360 Unite suite, which also includes Church360 members and Church360 Ledger. So you may hear me reference those other ones today, but we're not going to be talking about them in great detail. Church360 Unite, however, is our church website builder. And I always hesitate a little bit to say that because it's really selling it short. And it's certainly your website, that we know for sure, but it's also your church's blog, your member hub, your file sharing application, your church calendar, as well as your tool for sending mass emails to your congregation. And so we call it Unite because it unites all of these different web utilities that you might get from different sources, but puts them all into one package and makes it really easy to use. And we'll touch on all of those today. So couple things, all of our themes are mobile accessible. It syncs with your church management software, if that is Church360 members or shepherd staff. We have daily backups of everything, so you don't have to worry about storing your website offline in case something happens. If anything goes wrong, we are here to fix it. And then lastly, included with Unite comes all sorts of support and training like what we're talking about today, different ways of using your Unite site. All right, so as I get into this presentation, as I get into any presentation, I should say, I make assumptions. And my assumptions are generally the same for these type of webinars. I'm assuming you're at least familiar with your church website and church websites in general. I'm assuming you're relatively new to Church360 Unite, although if you have been using it a while, there's going to be plenty of tricks that you can pick up today. I'm assuming you're extremely busy. Otherwise, you probably are not a church worker if you're not extremely busy. I've met very few church workers in my days, whether that's paid or volunteer, who are not extremely busy. And I think as we go about the work of the church, there's an endless number of things to do because everyone still needs to hear the gospel message. And so that's why we're always busy. But I understand that you're busy, so I want to make sure that this provides value. So that's why we're going to end right at 11 o'clock. We're going to pack as much in as we can, and if you've got questions after the fact, just let me know. So now I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about yourself. And we've got more people joining us. Jim says no drink yet. Erica's drinking water today. So thanks for answering my silly question. It's just a way to get us kind of up and moving and show me that you guys know how to use that tool. So I want to make sure that's readily available for you. All right, so a couple questions for you. I'm going to put this out on the poll. The first one that'll help me kind of understand where you're coming from today from a role is to let me know what your primary role in the church is. And everybody wears multiple hats in the church, it seems, but this will let me know what your primary role is, the one you spend your most amount of time on. And looks like we've got a nice mix, although tech coordinator or webmaster, database master, etc., is leading the pack today. And we've got pastors, administrators, and others in here too. So thank you very much for letting me know on that. All right, I'm going to close that one down, and we're going to jump into the next one. So are you currently using Church360 Unite in your congregation today? This presentation will be good for both new or current users, but it helps me know what level of detail to get into today. So it looks like we've got quite a split, just about 50-50 of people who are using it and people who are not but are planning to soon. So that's great to know. My plan is not to make this a sales pitch. I am in marketing, but so that comes naturally to me. But really this is about training and giving you the tools you need to update your website quickly and efficiently. All right, the last one, if you are using Unite, of that 50%, if you could let me know what you feel your skill level is. I'm hoping that I'm planning for most people to be in that lower half, intermediate, novice, or newbie. Looks like we've got at least one advanced person, so thanks for joining us. You may be able to provide some advice as well as we're talking about things, so feel free to chime in. But otherwise, a pretty even split between intermediate, novice, and newbie. So very good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that, and we'll keep moving on with the presentation. The outline for today is to first do a very brief overview of Church360 Unite and just the interface and how that works. We're not going to spend too much time on that. We're going to spend most of the time on time-saving tips for updating your site. And I'll highlight those in just a moment. But what we're really looking at is these kind of general things you can do on a weekly basis, with very little time just to keep your members informed. Obviously, the initial setup of your website is going to take more than an hour, and there should be multiple people working on that. Hopefully, it's not all on you. But if you are the person that updates your website, there's a few key ways that you can leverage Unite to go quickly and easily and efficiently, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And then the last thing is we'll do some question and answers at the end. And again, just a reminder, please ask questions throughout. I would appreciate it. I get a queue in here that tells me how many people I have who kind of have their hand raised with a question. All right, so the things we're going to be looking at today from a regular updating perspective. And I should clarify, one of the reasons the primary reason why I chose to do this topic today is that on our annual customer survey, one of the things that we heard a lot was just keeping the website up to date. And that's a challenge and a struggle for people in the church. So that's why we wanted to share this. So we're going to talk about how you keep the homepage fresh. And that's an important thing. That's your front door to the church website. If people are coming to it and it's the same thing every time, they're going to think that the rest of the website is not up to date. All right, we're going to talk about adding events to the church calendar. That's one of the easiest ways to keep information current. That's a popular destination on your site for your visitors to go and just take a look at the calendar, see what's coming up. So we'll look at that. Keeping the online newsletter up to date. So updating that with new posts, and we're going to show a way of doing that. I'll talk through a few different options, but I'm going to recommend one in particular. Keeping specific ministry groups informed. I've got two ways of doing that. And then maintaining the digital church directory, which might be one of the biggest challenges people face. And there's no perfect solution to this, but I'm going to propose something that Unite supports that should help you keep that as up to date as possible, knowing you're never going to get 100%. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch gears over to my browser. And oops, I was already looking at the calendar, jumping ahead there. We're going to go back to the home page. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so that you can see it, because I know sometimes when we do these presentations, the view is a little bit small. All right, so this is our fictional church, Resurrection Lutheran Church. I put this together as a sample site of our material theme several months back, maybe about a year ago now. This is one of the ones that I'm most proud of. I think it's a nice, fresh, clean look, and the material design comes from Google's best standards and what they use with their Android devices. And I'm a big fan of Android, so that's one of the reasons why we chose this option. All right, so when you log in, and every site has the ability to log in. I'm already logged in here. My role is as an administrator, so I have access to everything, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But the quick overview, you've got your top bar here, which depending on your access will have different things. If you're an administrator, you'll have all 6 of these. The settings tab has a number of things for initial setup. So your account information about your church calendars, which you'll want to start at the beginning, and you'll probably update as you go. Where you go to get the information to set up your domain, this is really a one-time setup. Google Analytics, that's also a one-time setup. And then finally, if you're integrating with Shepherd staff, that one-time setup. And we have training on how to do that, so I'm not going to get into that today. If you are using Church360 members, that integration happens automatically based on your account. And so your software consultant will set that up for you if you're using both of these. Now, you can certainly use Unite without any kind of church management software. There's just some additional features you get if you combine those two. It saves some time as well on updating your member directory, but we'll talk about that as we get in there. The tab next to that is themes, and this is not necessarily a one-time thing, but it's not something you go into every day. And so you have, I think we're up to 12 different themes. Yeah, counting that, that's 12. One of these is an example theme. So the theme we're using today is material. When you click on a theme, it'll show what we call presets. And so the theme is a completely unique look and feel. And then the presets are that same look and feel, but with some tweaks. And so like here today is the example that we'll be going with. You can see the blue, grays, and brown, some of those things. You could go with a darker look like that. I think that looks nice. Orange is really my favorite color. It's nice and bright. If that fits the branding of your church, you can do it. But you can go through and see any of these, and all you have to do is click apply to put them in place. Now you can change some of them, some of the details depending on the theme by going over to customize and choosing some different options there. Advanced gives you all of the tools you need to add custom headers or custom scripts. So if you want to add your own CSS, put that in the headers. If you want to own your own or add your own JavaScript, you can put that there. Sometimes using third-party tools requires you to have access to the code. And rather than giving you full access, if you don't know what you're doing, we give you a place to embed some code. But if you're the type that does need full access, we give you edit. And so in this case, I've cloned the theme so that I can show this here. You can see all of the code base that's used, as well as where to embed the information that Unite needs. And you can modify your own theme from there. And we've had some very talented customers who go really above and beyond what we expected and present some beautiful websites. So depending on your skill level, you have that ability here. Now, for most people, you'll have the tech skill level to add different styles. And so you can add block styles and inline styles. And as we get into that, I'll show where that comes into play. But this is a way to be able to really customize your site without messing with the code. It's just like adding styles in a word processor, but it puts it in the language that websites need. We've got this little loader here, so you can only have so many custom fonts or web fonts without it slowing down your site. And so that gives you that idea. So we're right around the right level here using Google fonts. So like here, Roboto is what it is, and it gives you that sample. We'll get into that very briefly later on. That's not really the goal for today. So the first thing we want to look at today, those are the kind of the setups, that overview, everything else we're going to touch on as we go through this. The first thing that you want to do to keep your website up to date is keep your homepage fresh. Now today we're going to go around the theme of Vacation Bible School. I don't know what it's like at your congregation. My congregation has a school attached to it. Today is the last official day of school. So my wife's a teacher. Both my kids are in preschool. They're all excited about their last day of school. Well, at least my wife was. My kids are kind of disappointed because they love going to school. But my wife's ready for her summer vacation. So that is what's going on. The next thing is always Vacation Bible School. So at my church, that's coming up at the beginning of June. It's a very quick turnaround. My wife's involved with that, so I think that's one of the reasons why she's excited to end the school year so she can focus on VBS. But let me show you the tools for editing your website. And this is really what makes Unite a piece of cake for people who don't know how to web design. All you have to do is click this edit page button on the left, and it'll pop out this panel, and it'll kind of unlock your site so that you can do things. And you've got these blocks, and depending on which layout you pick in the top left will determine how many blocks you have. So we do this so that you don't have to go into the code and test things and preview. What you see is what you get. It's that WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get idea there. That's what we call this WYSIWYG editor. And so for something like this, where you have your main banner, the first thing people see when they get into your site after your navigation, you can go through and replace this. So you can just double click on it and it'll say, all right, show me what you want to put here. Now I have an image on my desktop, and so I'm going to go over to my second screen. I'm dragging it over here, and it looks like, yep, I just drop it in. There we go. I was expecting the screen to change a little bit, but I think because I've got it zoomed in, it didn't. But I just add this banner in. So I can double click on that, and it'll put it in place. So Splash Canyon VBS, that's what we're doing at my church. Now, you can go back and double click on it and go to Advanced, and it'll give you some different tools. So this one was kind of custom fit for this site. If you have a banner that's not quite the right size. And really for any banner, I would design it to be the right size, but then I'd go in here and I'd put width 100% and clear out the height. And that way, no matter what size the screen is, it always fills that space. Now you can also put in the kind of alternate text, and so you can say Splash Canyon, and that way when you hover over it, so you see it shrunk a little bit. It was skewed just a tad. Now we'll come back to this and add a link to it, but you might be saying, all right, Peter, that's fine. You had the image all ready to go. And that's true. I had already made that ahead of time, and that may be one of the biggest challenges is that graphic design. So my recommendation to you, first and foremost, if you have somebody in your church who can do design, please rely on them. But if you don't, and many churches don't, I'm going to show you a tool here called canva.com, canva.com. And I'll pull that up. I should have pulled that up ahead of time. This is a great photo editing tool, and it's completely free. They've got some paid things that go with it, but I didn't change the title here. We'll put that in VBS. So what I did is I created a blog title, I think is what I had, or maybe I used custom dimensions. And when you click on it, it goes into this editing tool. I had pulled these from our VBS website. And so we've got this big image in the background that I can drag around and place accordingly. I uploaded the logo that is provided free with the VBS. And then I went over here to Elements, and I think I went to Illustrations and just added the button. I may even search for it. Maybe it wasn't, maybe it was Shapes. I don't remember. Either way, this is a custom element. And so, well, that could take you a little bit of time. I put this together in preparation, and it took me maybe 10 minutes at the most. I had an idea of what I wanted. It's not, when those images are already provided, that's great. Now you can upload your own photos, and I recommend that more than anything. So upload is right here. You can also go and use some of their photos. So if you want to search for something, so let's search for school. And go to photos. They've got plenty of stock photography here. Some of it's free, some of it's paid. The paid is how they make their money. But there's also plenty of free stock photo sites out there as well. So you've got some options there in terms of what to put into the banners. So that's what I would recommend. You can easily add text and backgrounds, and then you just download those images. So while it's true I had that already made, and it only took me a few minutes to move it from my desktop and add it in here, it may take you a couple more minutes to make it. But I figure in the time that I spent introducing the webinar, you could have easily made that using Canva. And so while we don't have any official partnership with Canva, I always refer people to that because it's such a powerful tool. All right, so there we go. We're going to go ahead and save that. And now my website is up to date. Now, right now, this is not a good banner because I don't have a link on it yet. And obviously, you want every banner to link to something. We're going to get there in just a moment. But I want to show that first and foremost because I think updating the homepage is the best thing you can do to keep your website fresh. And even in the things down below like this, we've got a few Bible study options. I'd recommend changing those out, at least once or twice a month. You don't need to change all of your images out every week. But if by the end of the month, the entire homepage has new information compared to the beginning of the month, I think that's a good goal. And so switch things up as you go. Now, one last thing before I move forward. We often receive comments of, well, what about a rotating banner? Rotating banners can be done. We're considering adding that as a feature, although we're only considering it because we get a lot of requests for it. My personal feeling on rotating banners and what we've experienced and what I've seen elsewhere is that rotating banners really are not effective outside of the first banner because most people won't stay and wait. It's really more effective to have multiple banners on here that are always visible, and then on mobile, you just kind of scroll through like a news feed on social media. It can be done with third-party tools. If you want to use a rotation banner, we're happy to direct you to that. But my personal recommendation is stick with those static banners, because as more and more people are going to the website on mobile, they're not patient enough to wait for it to rotate. And even if you provide it so they can swipe with their fingers, it's not as natural swiping left to right as it is up and down. So that's my little spiel on rotating banners, but I did want to let you know it is possible using third-party tools with 360 Unite. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about, let me go back and quickly go to my outline here. So keeping the homepage fresh is first. Adding events to the church calendar is next. So I'll switch back to Unite. Underneath settings is where you have what we call calendars. Now, calendars are a collection of events, and you can have as many calendars as you want, and you can have as many events as you want, and you can have as many calendars associated with an event as you want, and also as many events on the calendar. It's really flexible. I'll show you what I mean here. So we're going to create a new calendar called VBS. And we're going to change the color of the VBS to this blue, because it's Splash Canyon. You've got that river. Now you've also got education in here, which I'm going to change over to, we're already at green. Let's do something like yellow. Yellow's not always the best to see. We'll go orange. All right. So we've got that. Now, if you want, if you already are using Google Calendars, you can just include your events from Google Calendars here. That's a fantastic way to keep your website up to date if your master calendar is already in Google. But Unite can also serve as your master calendar. So we'll add those in there. We're all ready to go there. Now I'll close this out. I'm going to go to News and Calendar. Depending on how your site's set up, it may be under a different navigation. But as an administrator, you can go in and add events. And so our calendar event is going to be VBS. I'll click over on the 11th. And we're going to create this new event, Vacation Bible School. And now I can add it to multiple calendars. So I'll add it to the education event. And I realize sometimes you have to refresh the site. So let me go do that real quick, because my VBS calendar isn't showing yet. So I'll do a quick refresh there and make sure, let me go back. Why is my calendar not showing there? VBS, I didn't set that yet. We're going to put VBS available for everyone. There you go. That's the permission levels. All right, we'll close that. We'll do a quick refresh. Make sure that is coming up now. There we go, VBS. All right, so we're going to do VBS and education. We'll paste Vacation Bible School there. So this event will be visible to everyone, and that's really what we want. Now, at the location, we don't have room assignments, although you can certainly type rooms in here. You can also type addresses. We would probably just want to put our church address in here, and so I'll plug that in. All right, it's going to start June 11th at 9 o'clock a.m. and it's going to end June 11th at 12 o'clock p.m. Now, you may want this to go all week. You don't want to set this from June 11th through the end of the week, because that's one event the whole time. What you want to do is set this up as the event repeats. So it's going to repeat every single week on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but we're going to end at the end of that week. So June 11th through the 15th, and then we're going to put in this description here. And I've already written this in so I can copy paste it. What I would recommend is writing information about it ahead of time. And again, this is one of those ones where I'm kind of cheating by having this pre-written. You don't need to do a lot. And I know with like VBS, we've got that pre-written. If you're plugging this in the bulletin, I would copy that information, tweak it a little bit for the website, depending on what's needed. But put that in so it's consistent. You don't have to rewrite the same thing over and over again, because the same people aren't going to every place you have it. So the same person isn't going to go to the bulletin and the newsletter and the website and read it thoroughly. They're going to go to one of those key places, maybe social media as well, to get that information. And so you can use the same copy, the same content over and over again with appropriate tweaks depending on how long you want it to be on each one. But don't expect that it has to be different for each one, because for something like this where you're announcing an event, recycling that will save you time and really serve the same purpose of informing people on that first look. All right, invitations. We could invite people for an all-church event like this. I wouldn't recommend it. But then you could put reminders, and I'll explain what reminders are for in a minute. So let's do 1 day before and 3 days before. Create that event, and there we go. It's going to refresh. Good. We've got some questions coming in here. Thank you for asking about that. I'll make sure to answer all of those. And Pam, thanks for giving me the message from my goddaughter, Sarah. So you're up there in northern Minnesota. Thanks for attending today, and please tell Sarah and the Hartwigs hi. All right, very good. So Vacation Bible School is up and running. We've got that event that shows it. You can see here that there's a thing that says I am not going to this event or I'm going. Now, as soon as I click I'm going, the reminders take effect for me. And I can change those as well if I wanted to. I can say, well, for me, I want it to remind me 1 hour before and 1 week before. I don't need these other ones. So what you're doing by setting the reminders is putting some defaults in and then letting people choose their own reminders from there. All right, so now we have this event. What's great about this is we also have an event URL. So if I wanted to, I could take this URL and go to the home page, go to Edit, click on that image, click on the link, and paste the URL. Now, if you wanted to link onto another page or feed in your site, you get that listing. We just don't show every event in there because that would be a ton of events. And so that's where I would recommend that you go to any URL and paste that in there. And we'll click OK and close that. Oops, I didn't hit save. That's one thing you do want to do. Yeah, good, it's still there. I'll click save there. Now it'll refresh. Remember to hit the save button. And now I can go to the home page, click on Splash Canyon, and it'll go to that event. So with 2 actions, you have not only updated the church calendar, but you've updated your home page to go to that. So that's one great time-saving tip, is to link people to events on your calendar, because you've got the ability to put lots of information there, but it also allows you to then let people, or allows your users to mark that they're going, get the reminders, and you've got other things in here like comments or participants. People only see this, the participants, if they're signed in. And so it lets you know who else is coming. So for a church-wide event like Vacation Bible School, you may get a long list, but for something like Bible study, you may only get a dozen or 2 dozen people who put it in there. And that gives you an idea of who's coming and really encourages more people to sign up. This is, oh, well, if so-and-so's going, I'll go because this should be a good event. All right, so that is how to add events to the church calendar. The next thing is to update the online newsletter. Now you may be saying, well, I don't have an online newsletter. We just put news up there. Well, that's essentially what I mean. Now you've got a few things you can do. So you could go and have a news and announcements page. And so this is left over from Easter, the last webinar we did. Actually, this one is a feed. Let's go to newsletter here. All right, here we go. So this would be just a regular page. So maybe this is the online newsletter, and we'll clear this out and just have this be like upcoming events. Oops, and we'll paste my VBS information, and we'll say, okay, Vacation Bible School, and we'll do that as an H3, we'll do that as an H2, gives that proper weighting. We could even do that as an H1, actually. All right, Vacation Bible School. And then you could do your next event down here. So maybe the next event will be, summer camp. Oops. And you can have details about summer camp. Oops, my spacebar doesn't seem to be working. Well, that's fun. I spilled coffee on my keyboard the other day, and it's starting to cause me some problems here if the space bar is not working. All right, well, we'll go ahead and leave that in there. It did work a second ago. Always fun things on live webinars. That's fantastic. All right, so we'll put that back to the heading 3, and we'll just pretend there's information about summer camp. So that's one way to do your digital newsletter, your online newsletter. I don't recommend that. It's easy to do, but what it does is it creates this very long page where you're constantly having to go in and remove old things and add new things and figure out where you want that placement. You can do that. It's just more time consuming. What I would recommend doing is going up to pages, and this is where you can add new content to your site. So what we have there, that newsletter resources page, was just a simple page, and you can add as many pages as you want by going up to the top right and clicking plus page, new page, and create the page here. And so if we want to do summer camp, now the space bar is working. All right, summer camp, we could do that up there. What I recommend though for online newsletters is to do what we call a feed. So if you go here to plus and then the second one, plus feed page, and create that. And this we'll just call example feed because we've already created a feed here on our site. You get a different icon on there that has that little kind of chat bubble. It's more like it's meant to be a blog post kind of thing. There's just not a really good icon that's universal for blog post. But what that allows you to do is create a feed of posts. So syndicated content is one of the things that I like to say, where the newest content is always at the top, but you can see the oldest or the older content below. So if we go here, we'll save those changes. By the way, I didn't go into this page before. On the left-hand side, you have your menu items. So home, about us, worship time, news. On the right-hand side, you have your available menu items. Those are pages you can link to that just don't show up into the navigation. Whether they're live or not is based on your publish button. So like here, newsletter, we'll select that. You can publish it or make it a draft, and it'll give you that draft status, and then you can publish it. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a few moments. All right, we're going to go ahead and save that. Close the page. We're going to go to news and announcements. And it looks very similar. The difference is that you have this RSS link, and I'll talk about that in a moment, and then you have linked content here. And so I click on Easter Sunday, and it takes me to essentially the same thing. Let me show you what that is. If we go to edit page, it gives you different information than what we had on a regular page. So you've got your title and your description, that shows up in search results. But then you say how many posts per page. And you could say, well, maybe we only show the top 4 posts and we don't show their content and we don't allow comments. So it's just this ongoing list of updates. So if we hit save there, you can see here now that Easter Sunday has been reduced to just the title and the date. And if I click on Easter Sunday, I get more information. So let me go back here. We'll go, whoops, sorry, I want to go back here. And we'll go to edit page. And then I get this new post. And so we can say Vacation Bible School. Good, and my space bar is working again. And we'll paste all that in here. Special thanks to my church office. Susie wrote this copy for our church, and I just kind of replaced some of the names of that, figuring that it was well written in the need for the church, and saved me time by doing that. So it's a shameful copy, but it's to serve a good purpose. So, and I know Susie wouldn't mind because she's so helpful. All right, so we'll go ahead and I'll change this to published. You can also schedule this in advance. So if you've got some time to work ahead and you don't want something to publish yet, you can schedule it for a later date and time. But we're going to go ahead and publish this. Now I've created this post and it shows up below here. So if I go to Vacation Bible School, I now have that post with the date and time and everything else. Now, the great thing about this is that I could also add any images that I wanted. So the post title will show up at the top, but if I wanted to add like a blog post header, we can put that in there. And we'll go through and I'll do that same kind of thing. We don't want to default to 100% on here. That's why it doesn't, because not every image goes the whole width. Just these 2 that I'm showing goes that way. So there we go. Now, what I could also do would be a link to the event, or if I have a registration page using CPH's VBS Mate, shameful plug, VBS Mate allows people to register for VBS, and so you can do that here too. But we'll go ahead and save that. And so this gives me a nice article or post that goes into my digital newsletter. And so it's just as simple as adding a new article. So if you are posting things in a printed newsletter, take those articles, add them as new posts within your feed, and the latest will always show up at the top. Now what's great is you can also link to those. So you can see here that URL, Post News and Announcements Vacation Bible School, is really a nice URL that's meant to direct people here. Now from the home page, I can also go in and edit that image, go back to links here and say a page or feed in my site, and go to news and announcements, and it'll show up at the top. I forgot that not every post shows up in here as well, but you could also post that URL in there. So some great options for how to keep your content up to date. It's all kind of intertwined. So the calendar event is good, but I would recommend having a post that has more details, adds images, and you could link to your calendar event and say sign up here, or if you want to link to a separate sign up tool like VBS Mate, you can do that. All right, so that's how you keep your online newsletter up to date. So the next thing on here is keep specific ministry groups informed. And there's two ways of doing that. All right, so under pages, we talked about regular pages and feeds, but you can also add groups. So we'll add a page called groups right there, that third one on there, create that. A group is a different kind of page. It's almost like a site within a site. So we're gonna put one in here for youth group. So I know that our youth group helps out a lot with Vacation Bible School. And so I'm going to go ahead, I'll save my changes. We'll click youth group. And this is where your messaging starts to change. You don't want to just go in here and post something that says, the same thing that every other VBS says. What you're looking to do is enlist volunteers. So it's a specific ministry group with the same kind of event, but a different message. And so that's where these things start to add up. Well, there's two ways of doing this. One, you could allow each of these ministry groups to have their own group page on your site. And you as the webmaster or the administrator could update it. Or better yet, recommend that the leader of those groups uses this site and puts the content in themselves. So if we go here, this is a group page for the youth group. You can edit this home page and put details in. So if we wanted to, we could put a note about Vacation Bible School and say, Vacation Bible School, and mark that as like a header 2 and put details in and say, sign up to volunteer today, or something like that. So you could do that, contextualize it a little bit, or you could do that under discussion, and the group leader could post an announcement that says, sign up to volunteer for Vacation Bible School, and you could put a link to that and post that. All the members of the group, which you could add on the members tab, would get a notification saying sign up for this. So that's one way. Let's add a few members for that. We'll add Kira Belton and Rob Calloway and Jan Clayton, just a few people in here, Aaron Collins. So you can have it so that under your group settings, individuals under their member settings. I went a little quick there, sorry about that. So if you go to member settings, anybody who's a member of this group can go and modify their settings. They can choose to receive an email only when a leader makes an announcement or when any member posts a comment. That's what it defaults to. And so unless they've updated to say, don't send me any email notifications, which for youth group may be really relevant because a lot of youth group members don't use email regularly. But then when you go into discussions, anything that's posted under the discussion can be sent out. Now, that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be to go to your members page here and click Email All. And it'll take a second because we use what's called an email relay, and I had my email closed. Let me pull this over. So I had to open up my Outlook, but it creates a unique email list for that youth group. So every member of that group, so in our case, it's these 5 people over here, get put into this unique email address. So if I go and type an email that says, I invite you to volunteer at VBS, and maybe say, oops, that's why I kept it closed. I don't get announcements. Youth group volunteer opportunity. What this will do is it'll send an email to our servers, and we will relay it one at a time to every member of the group, which allows you to communicate with the group with their most up-to-date email address without having to store that in your email folder, without having to use a third-party tool, without worrying about Outlook saying, okay, you're sending it to too many people, which can happen. And each email provider has different requirements for how many emails you can send out or how many email addresses you can send out. So it gets by those things. It uses the same thing that those third parties like MailChimp or Constant Contact use, where it just sends it out to everybody individually. So you can do it that way. So that's a way to communicate with this specific group. Now, what if you want to email everyone in the congregation or specific groups but that are not set up here as a group? That's where this user comes in. And I mentioned before I would talk about this. With Church360 Unite, you can invite every member of your congregation to join in as a user. And you can do that with a bulk invite. We've got that to add people, just do a CSV import. If you're using our church management software, there's ways of linking with that. That's explained in other trainings. It's a little bit more complicated than we can get into today. But within users, you can create what's called mailing lists. And so we could create a mailing list that's VBS volunteers. We'll create that. And then you click on it and say, okay, who's in this group? Well, the first thing is the youth group. And then we know that, let's see, Jim Meyer usually volunteers, Amy Powell, a few other people. You could also say that anybody who's signed up for this outreach news mailing list gets in there. So you could do a mailing list that's a combination of individuals, groups, or other mailing lists. And when you save that, you click that and click email, it does the same thing. It creates a new email list that you can send to that sends it to everybody on that list. And again, it's done so that it's sent to our servers, relayed. What makes that really nice, though, is that then under activity, you can track those emails that are sent out. It even tracks the reminders for different events. And so you can see who's received it. Yeah, you see all these failed email addresses. These are all fake emails because it's a fake database. That's why these emails don't work a lot of the times. The ones that are real emails, like the ones to me here, those do work. But you can have this log of when emails were sent and delivered, and it allows you to keep your email information up to date. And that's really that last part. So maintain the digital church directory. So like I said, you can, let me go back here, you can invite your users, your members to join as users, and you have this big list of people that are there. On the far right, you have what's called listed, and that means that they are listed in the church directory. So the church directory, let's see, where did I put that? I should have looked for that ahead of time. We'll go up to pages and see where is under visit. We probably should put that under news. All right, we'll save that there. And it's, so under news, we've got members. And this is your church directory. And so anybody who wants to be listed in here can be listed. So we'll pull up mine. So there's Peter Frank. I can click on there and it gives me my profile information. So I can edit my own profile, And not only can I keep my name up to date, I can keep my contact information up to date. So if I want to say, all right, put my work number in there, 23142681408. Yep, my dash is sticky too. That's from the coffee. So there, and I can say that's listed, and I can put my other information here, but I get to choose. I'd like to be seen in the membership directory. Even if they don't want to be in the membership directory, if they update their information, they're sharing it with the church office. And so you can maintain this updated list of emails and phone numbers without having to go in and do it yourself, because the people who are closest to the information, the members of the church, have access to update it. And so if you've got this connected to your church management software, it flows back and forth. Any updates on either end can be updated in the other. And so this idea of maintaining the digital church directory is able to be done by maintaining your church management software, and it can be done by others or you, and it goes to the same places. So that's really the last thing on there. So we're going to go ahead. I'll update my profile. And I'll go back to the home page and just review what we've done. Yeah, we're right at 10:50. I'm so used to this 50-minute thing that I sometimes speed through that. So I want to do a quick review because I know I went through this quickly, and then we'll get into question and answers. So the first thing we did was we kept the home page fresh. Then we added events to the church calendar and updated the online newsletter. So those were the things we did really related to VBS. We updated this banner here, and I showed you how to use Canva. Again, that's canva.com. Then we link this to the event. So here is that event where you've got Vacation Bible School. People can say I'm going or not going. This shows up on the church calendar, which I don't think I ever went back and showed you. There we go. So you can see here's the church calendar. There's the event that's there every day. We've got a nice description in place. By the way, you can choose which events you want to see. So if you want to see like just a VBS calendar, you can click there. If you want to see all education opportunities, you can click there. It'll still show up. That's because we've got it on multiple calendars. Then what we did is we created two different ways of adding it to your online newsletter. One is if it's in this page where it just continually adds things, you can edit it there. Or two, the better route, which I would recommend, is through a feed, your news and announcement feed. By the way, I meant to mention, when you see this little link that says RSS feed, if you click on that, it's going to give you this really code-based site. This is the URL that people will need if they want to register for it and receive updates automatically through an RSS reader. It's a great way to stay informed, and it can be fed into things like e-readers or into email services. There's a great way of doing that. Even things like MailChimp can take an RSS feed and send out automatic updates to it. So that's why I really recommend going with a feed. So we did those things. Then the last two things we did was keep specific ministry groups informed. And that is by creating a group. In this case, the group was, oops, looks like, did it sign me out? Let me do a quick refresh there. There we go. It looks like so the page, which was the youth group, this is our youth group, which is kind of like their own site within the site, that the youth group leader can manage on their own and post updates and send discussion information to all the members of the group. Then we also emailed all the members of the group from here, which we can also do going up into users and mailing lists and creating a group there, VBS volunteers. And then the last thing we did was show, because we've already got people actively in as users, they are also part of the member directory. And so that's another thing that can be kept up to date. And I should clarify, you might have assumed this, but I do want to say it specifically. The member directory is only available for members who have logins to see. So you log out, and that's where we'll kind of wrap this out. If we sign out here, this is our public view of the website. If I go to news, I can't see members. I can go to calendar, and I can see VBS there, but I can't say I'm going. I can just see the information. I can see the participants that are visible or that are public. And then I can still see like the news and announcements. That's available for me, but I can't see the member directory. I can't see the youth group that's sensitive information. I can't get there. So it gives you this kind of public and private side where the sensitive information is hidden, but for your members who are users of the site, they log in and they can see it. All right, so that is kind of the overview, or really the whole presentation. The next point that we're going to get to is the question and answers. So before I get into that, I wanted to let you know, if you haven't used Church360 Unite yet, you're one of that half of the audience who's attending today that is not using it, you can start your free 30-day trial at 360unite.com and do all of these things. The free 30-day trial gives you access to all of the tools. The only restrictions are the number of administrators and the amount of storage space. So you can't be loading up huge files, but I think it's 5 megabytes. So you can at least do what you need to do to test all of this out. All right, so if you would like to learn more, you can reach out to me or one of our software consultants. They manage our sales process to help you get up and running when you're ready to go. We've got a great team of people there who are eager and willing to help you out. But in the meantime, let's go into question and answer. So I'll leave that up and let's see what we've got here. Looks like we've got a good number of questions. A few people have left. I apologize for that, but I'll go through and answer those questions. They may be able to see this after the fact. So the first question says, is it better to use stock photos or specific photos of your congregation? This is from Melanie, and Melanie has already left. But Melanie, if you're watching the recording of this, I would certainly recommend to use photos of your own congregation, because that's going to be most relevant, and really, people like seeing photos of real people. They can tell a stock photo. So I would recommend doing that. However, make sure you get people's permission if you're including people in that. If you're doing a group shot where nobody can be identified, like from the back of the congregation, that's a good way of doing it, or from a large group. That would be recommended as well. But stock photos can be helpful if you're talking more conceptually. So if you're going to do a study on, like we're doing right now, I think it's called The Bible in the Real World, where it's a review of the Holy Land and showing what things happened and live or real videos taken from recent of those locations. You're not going to be able to go take those photos yourself, and so you might use a stock photo of the Holy Land, something like that. So it really depends, but I would recommend using real photos as often as possible. Let's see. Tammy said she continues to see me rather than the items I'm speaking about, which I apologize for. It looks like she did not get to see the screen share. I don't see any other comments about that, so hopefully you saw the screen share that I was doing. It shows that I'm showing my screen, so I'm hoping that it was just a technical issue. So Tammy, I apologize about that, but you'll definitely get the recording. So if anybody else had any problems with seeing the presentation, please let me know. But I thought it was going well, and I didn't get any other ones there, so I think we're in good shape. Bill is asking, how frequently is website backed up and can be user controlled? Bill, it's backed up every night. We store those backups for at least a month. It cannot be user controlled because it's not meant as like an undo button. But if there was ever something that went wrong, something that was, accidentally deleted, we could always go back to it. It's interesting. We've talked about giving more options for retrieving backups, but it hasn't really been an issue. And that's part of how we've designed it, is we've designed it so that you can't easily mess up something. There's a lot of validations. Are you sure you want to delete this? Things like that. So honestly, even though we keep it backed up, it's very rare that we ever have to go and retrieve a backup. And some of that might be because we, let me sign back in real quick. Some of that is because within the event log, you can see some of the activities that are going really around users. But that's often the questions that we have, like, okay, when did this person get added or when did they get deleted? You can see when people are added and deleted. And so from a website perspective, in order to really change something, you have to go into edit page and then confirm that change. To delete it, you have to go up to pages, click on something and hit delete. It's so hard to accidentally make a catastrophic error that we just don't have people who are doing that. So it is not user controlled, but do know that we back up all of our websites on a nightly basis and make it available in the case of a catastrophic incident, which again doesn't really happen. We keep those backups for a month. And Bill's last question that we have is what manuals are recommended. And I'm glad you brought this up. We don't have a printed manual for 360 Unite because it does change and improve regularly. But what we have in the lower right-hand corner is this information button, the I button. And when you click on it, you have a ton of different help articles. So like here, how do I create a new page? It gives you all of that in line. But when you click at the bottom and go see original help article, it takes you to our online help center. And in our online help center, we have a bunch of different things. So you have a search that you can go into. If you go into the help center, you've got all of these different pages. So like if you want to learn about users, you can click on users and see all those articles. We also, within this help center, have a community. And so the community, which is just recently started, we don't have a lot in here right now. We just rolled that out about a week ago or so, where you can go and add feature requests or add general discussion, ask people for advice, and others can see that. With the feature request, you can upvote features that you like. And so we just launched that, so there's not a lot there right now, but I encourage you to go in there. But you can also at any time submit a request to our support team and they'll respond as fast as possible. It's about almost 100% of the time within 24 hours. That's always our goal, or within 8 business hours is what we look at. But it's usually much quicker than that. And so you can enter in your information there, add files, submit it. It goes directly to our team. You can also do that within the app where you go and send us a message and put it in there. And we also put the phone number available. So there's a lot of ways to get help. It's not a printed manual, but it's basically everything but that. All right, so that is the last of our questions. Pam, thanks for letting me know Brett said hello as well. That's always great to hear those connections. So I'm so glad you guys are using Unite there. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, later on today, you'll get an email with a recording of this webinar, so you can review that. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or our software consultants. But thanks again for joining us today. I hope you found this helpful. And I've hit my hour, and so we're done updating our website. So have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much. Bye.